What's up, influencers? Today I've got a special show with a special guest. And today we're talking about things I wish I knew before starting my YouTube channel. One of them being the power of search. That's what I personally wish I knew. Because when you put up a video, especially if it's a good quality video, and you put it onto the platform, it can get views for years to come. And I hope this first thing that I wish I knew before I get started inspires you to post a video today, because you never know how many people for how many years will consume your content. Some of our most viewed videos on this channel, Video Influencers, were uploaded 3 years ago and they still get views every single month. And to share her side of what she wished she knew, we've got Emily Baker. She's a former deputy district attorney turned legal commentary creator on YouTube. She's a no BS commentator breaking down the facts without the spin. She's had massive growth, subscribers and views galore in just the last, 90 days to a year. And she is here to share her reasons why she's growing so much and what she wished she knew. I'm so excited to have everybody's favorite legal commentator, Emily Baker. What's going on, Emily? I can't hear her, but we'll get her going.
I can hear me.
Okay, perfect. Emily,
sorry. Hey there. So glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on Video Influencers. This is a VI show. We're going to go ahead and get right into asking the questions. But that first point I made, the power of YouTube. And I know when you first started your channel, and by the way, I saw it was like 2006. I'm sure you would have never thought that what you're doing right now and what you're crushing at was what you would get known for. But tell us the power of YouTube, how you got started and where you're at today. And if you agree with that, like wishing you knew the power of, search and the power of this platform that we call YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. I started YouTube as a way to connect with people, as more of a hobby. I started in the tech tube space because I was still a deputy district attorney in the county of Los Angeles. I couldn't do anything legal related, and I am a giant tech nerd. I am a gearhead. I am that YouTuber who's like, ooh, there's a new version of the exact same camera that I have. Maybe I need that too. But what I've learned doing YouTube is the gear, it matters a bit. You need to be able to access the platform, but it's really your voice and what you bring to the platform that creates these bonds and connections and community that is so powerful. My channel was growing slow and steady, and I was totally fine with that. We were growing, a couple hundred subs a week, which was really respectable as it started to grow alongside my podcast. And then one topical video took off in search, and that video, the watch time on it, I think, was long enough that YouTube was like, hey, let's push this. And that video grew, and then it started pulling other videos with it. And then as it pulled other videos with it, everything I started putting out got pulled into that search as well. So for me, ranking topically in Google search for what I'm doing and in YouTube search really, really helped my channel grow. But also knowing my voice helped my channel grow. When I started having videos do really well, and for me, really well was going from a couple thousand views to tens and hundreds of thousands of views, the subscribers started to come, but then they started to rewatch that back catalog. And I could see those numbers of how many videos new visitors to my channel were watching. And it was in the fives regularly because there was this catalog of content that was on the same type of topic with the same type of structure. And that really helped the channel grow. I absolutely believe in the power of YouTube, believe in the power of search. I'm so happy to be getting into that full-time content creator realm. And this really took off since the end of October. I mean, truly is when everything started to grow. But I've been active on my channel years before that. And it was just dialing in exactly what my channel was, what my voice was, and then who my community was. And they've named themselves the Law Nerds. We ride at dawn when stuff goes down. And it's just been, the community's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I really respect about you is how humble you are. Let me just tell you some of your stats. I'm sure you don't really talk a lot about this. By the way, to all the law nerds, you should definitely check out Emily's channel. But hello to all the law nerds. But let's look at your channel real quick. You started
These
out.
the old videos. Oh
I
God.
know, I
Oh
know,
God.
I know. Sorry, I got to do this. I got to do this. We've got some purses that you're reviewing.
Look,
You're
those purse
looking at
videos did well. Purse videos
cameras.
slapped back in the day.
And then of course we go to literally just in the last 6 months, right? You've had this
Mhm.
channel for a long time, but just in the last, I'd say, last like 90 days, you've had some massive growth. And let me just tell you some of these numbers. Number one, you've done 30 in the last 30 days, 1.2 million views, 3 months, 4.1 million views. In the last year,
Yep.
8 million views. You probably have grown in terms of subscribers. You've grown
Yes.
in subscribers probably. How many in just the last like 3 months, would you say?
I mean, there's a live video at the end of October where I'm like, guys, we're gonna hit 5,000. We're gonna hit 5,000 subs. It's gonna be amazing. So, sitting right around Halloween, we were almost at 5,000 subscribers. Today
Wow.
is what, January 23rd as we record this, and we just crossed over 80,000 subscribers yesterday. So
Wow. Well,
that's right.
congratulations to
Thank
any
you.
influencers who wants a no BS commentator. Definitely check out Emily's channel. We'll have the link down below. But let's get right into the first thing that you wish you knew before starting YouTube. What's one of the lessons that you've learned on this journey? I know that it's been a long one, but just in the recent few months, you've actually had so much success. What is it that you wish you knew before you started your YouTube channel?
Oh, absolutely. So, like the law brain plus the creator brain on this one, I really wish when I first started my YouTube channel, knowing that I wanted to be a creator, I had started under an email address that was not publicly findable, publicly available, or related to my name in any way. Um, and this is because, A, if you start growing and if you start having any kind of cyber interest, I've had lots of people trying to get into my various Gmail accounts. And if your channel is connected to an account where somebody can find that address or it's your business address, it becomes easier for them to attack that email address. So for creators, and I've said this for a while, but I started my channel so long ago, I didn't think to move it. And then moving it once it's big becomes a whole nother thing. I wish I had picked just a kind of rogue and random Gmail account to have my channel under, knowing that it was going to be a, financial really property of my brand, and having kind of that random email, starting it as a brand account so you can have people in the back end of your account help so you don't have to change it over later, and just treating it not as a hobby when I started, but I also when I started YouTube, I couldn't imagine that I would ever even leave the district attorney's office and be a YouTuber. So I really wish I had thought then, hey, if you're putting anything out on the internet, you never know what it can become. And that's for everyone who's like, maybe I will throw up a few videos. Treat it like you never know what it'll become, because you don't know what it will become. And things can grow on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram very quickly. And having a little anonymity in that foundation is a very, very good thing. So that's my first
Yeah.
takeaway on that, is kind of protect your properties first, and anonymous emails are good, not like first name, last name at Gmail.
For sure. No, that's actually great advice. I've never actually heard that as like what I wish I knew. And you coming from the legal background, I think probably have a lot more experience in this field, because privacy is a big thing. Where there's so much trolling, so much negativity, so many negative things that are happening on the platform, and you got to be able to protect yourself. So this is a simple step that honestly everybody watching right now, because this is video influencers, should definitely consider. And I didn't even think about this, so I'm going to have to look at that. But what would be the next thing that you wish you knew before starting your YouTube channel?
So the one thing you find in YouTube, or can find in YouTube a lot, is the negativity in YouTube, and the, creators aren't friendly. And especially in the commentary space, when you get into the drama commentary, you can see creators turning on each other and things like that. What I didn't expect was how welcoming, supportive, and truly genuine most of the creators I've interacted with on this platform are. And I wish I had really thought about the creator community earlier on and made more efforts to connect with the creator community. And I did that in the tech space. But when I came into the commentary space, I was like, I'm just going to stay over here in my lane. But the commentary community has been welcoming, supportive, and really, really genuine. So I was hesitant to really jump in and form those relationships. And they've been so important to me as I've grown over the last few months. So don't hesitate to reach out to other creators because you're nervous. If you watch their content and have a vibe for who they are, reach out and connect with other creators, especially if you have something going viral and there's someone else in that space. It's okay to reach out and ask for help because it can be a very weird and lonely experience not knowing what to do, especially if you're a newer creator as things start to grow. But I've found creators on the whole in the spaces I've been in to be very welcoming and supportive. And that's been a really incredible and wonderful surprise. And I hope that everyone takes the positive side of YouTube. Though there will always be kind of complaints about the negative sides of any platform on social media, there's so much good to focus on this platform. I'm glad I've jumped in. I wish I had jumped in a bit sooner.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that too. You know, of course, being on YouTube for so long, starting multiple channels, everything from family content to video influencers, there's always going to be that negativity. There's always going to be bullies and trolls. However, it's the community that we're doing this for in the first place. And this is why engagement at the very beginning and even to the present, when however big you get, is always so important. And what's interesting is even on the worst day of trolling and hate, it's crazy the majority of people watching are still very positive, very supportive. Have you seen that as well in your community? Because, and what did you say your community nickname was?
Our community has named themselves the Law Nerds,
There
and
you go.
I found my community of kind of audience. I mean, they're not really audience because we are engaged together in kind of co-creating content. And what are we talking about? And what are we calling this? And what are we naming the? We've named the lawsuits of 2020 tsunami, like SUENAMI. And so, what are we calling the things that we're experiencing? And people from all over the world, every profession, people who are like, I didn't know how interested I was in understanding the laws behind the stories that I'm interested in. I didn't know how much I wanted to learn about, can somebody be forced into bankruptcy, like a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills? And so the law nerds come from all different walks of life, but are a positive, uplifting, and supportive community. I see them in the chats. The amount of messages in my chats when I'm live blows my mind. The amount of people on my live honestly blows my mind. When I hit like 100 people in a live stream before my channel grew, I was like, this is amazing. There's 100 of us having a conversation. And now there's often upwards of 6,000 of us having a conversation on a live stream. And the comments are supportive, congratulatory. People are engaging with each other, and people now pre-party the live streams in the chat. They pre-party the live streams. If I opened the live stream 4 hours early, they would be in there pre-partying the live stream. They pre-party the live stream in the chat when I populate the thumbnails. And everyone who gives me the feedback is like, this is like hanging out with a friend. This is where I come to be with my community. And I think that's really important during COVID, but I love seeing how supportive they are of each other and how uplifting that is to be a part of. The community is absolutely 100% the best. And when there is negativity on the internet, most of the community is like, no, this is not what we're about. We keep moving. And they know me. So they know we don't fight on Twitter over nonsense. We just keep it moving. And I see my community members following that lead and doing the same thing. And I feel like it's uplifting the conversations on social media. And I love it so much.
Absolutely. You know, one thing I want to mention is speaking of community, what's up, influencers? We got Roger Wakefield. He's in the chat. We got the Swedish car guy, Rasmin's message from Spirit. It's really important for us to acknowledge you guys, the reason why Sean and I started this channel. So welcome. Without further ado, let's just get right into the third thing you wish you knew before starting your YouTube channel, Emily. What is that third thing?
I really didn't realize how much money there was in YouTube. And I know I've seen people talk about it like, you know, Mr. Beast and others, but I didn't ever imagine my channel being a multi-million dollar or million person channel. I'm not going to say not multi-million because now we see the possibilities. But I always was like, I have this kind of quirky little corner of the internet where we use a lot of cursey words. We talk about legal stuff and relate it back to pop culture. It's not like law books in the background. It's not formal. We've renamed most legal terms to have some form of curse word in it, and making law accessible to everybody through a lot of pop culture just seemed like a funny little niche. And I look at my subscriber numbers, and it is still a small channel. It's a growing small channel, but by YouTube standards, it's a small channel, but it's still, the amount of money there is just amazing. I had no idea. And I've been really blown away by how many opportunities growing on YouTube has brought. And then just even the ad revenue for it. I've been pleasantly surprised, because it's like you hear how much money someone like Ryan's Toy Review makes, and you're like, that seems unreachable. And then if your channel starts to do well, you look at the numbers and go, oh, I didn't understand how this all worked. This YouTube, the business of YouTube is fantastic. And the channel memberships are a fantastic form of recurring revenue. The AdSense is fantastic. Brand partnerships and sponsorships. And then the ability to connect with other creators. I get to do exactly what I want to do, talk about what I want to talk about, and I still get paid to do it. Some months, most months, more than what I made as a deputy district attorney, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. No, Emily, first off, thank you for sharing that. You're the exact type of content creator and channel I like to feature here on Video Influencers, to show the possibility with something so niche. You know, you're law nerds. By the way, welcome to Video Influencers Law Nerds. If you want more interviews like this, definitely subscribe. But the reason I bring up you is because I feel attorneys bring a lot of value to me and my business, but there's not enough of them doing what you're doing on YouTube. So I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, law nerds in the chat area, one of the reasons why you've got such a strong community is because there's not enough of you guys doing what you're doing, right? Fighting the good fight, looking at things based off of facts, right? And not just the spin. This is one of the things that I really don't like about watching CNN or Fox. I try to watch both, but they're both just, it's just like a drama show, right? And so obviously you're not necessarily reporting news, but you're just reporting on legal things in a way that's a little bit more objective. Of course, you're going to put a little bit of your personality. You might commentate on your opinion, but your goal is to share the facts. So anybody that's watching right now, if you're in a niche that you think or assume isn't valuable to YouTube, I would use Emily's channel as an example to rethink that, because I bet, Emily, if more attorneys see the success you're having, they're going to probably want to start putting out content, start building a channel, creating a community so they can do what you're doing, especially if the monetary motivation is there. Now, I'm assuming you aren't just on here because the money, but it's nice because it can continue to support what you're doing. Anything else you want to add? Because you're the exact type of person I like to hear from, because there's so many different ways to monetize, and there's no one, right way or wrong way. It's whatever works with you. Anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, I think you hit it right on. I absolutely didn't start YouTube for the money. I didn't really ever anticipate it. For like my first year on YouTube, I think I got $100 in AdSense. Like I barely met the threshold for AdSense payouts. And I didn't really expect it to ever really turn over and generate revenue the way that it is. I was always excited to see older videos and older iPhone videos do well, but the community was always my focus. And I think the reason that my channel resonates is partly because the stories, but partly because of me. My community knows that I kind of have a true north in my own values and in the way I see things. And I share with my community, like, this is where I struggle with this result legally versus morally or ethically. And this is where I'm not sure how I want this to go, because I see both sides and I don't know how I want this result to sort out. And I'm not afraid to not have the answers, which is something lawyers struggle with, is not being okay with going, I don't know how this is going to shake out. And I bring my personality to it because A, that's how I connected with jurors when I was a trial attorney. And B, that's what makes it fun. There are all different types of lawyers on YouTube, and there is always room for more. But finding the thing that you like to talk about and that you consistently want to talk about will bring the community. And it's different having a resource channel versus having kind of a personality driven channel. I think my channel is a hybrid of both. And I think the law nerds give me that feedback on the regular. They're like, we don't care what we're talking about today. Let's just have a chat. But also, those legal breakdowns give a real clear lane of the type of topics that I cover on YouTube. Because if there aren't court filings, we really don't get into it because that's not breaking down the law. And so it's really given a clear direction for my channel. So my community knows what they're going to get no matter what topic we're talking about. They know the kind of structure of how we talk about it. And they know that I am consistent in how I present things and where my values are. And they share those values with me, that we value compassionate conversation, not cancellation. We value facts, not nonsense. We have other cursey words for it. We value having hard conversations and respecting people who have different beliefs or views, because that's the only way we can understand what's going on, not with just the laws, but even how the news reports the laws. Because there's definitely time I call it out and saying, these are the facts of this case. This is the law in this case, but this is what's being reported on this case. And there's a disconnect there, and that's nonsense.
Awesome. Yeah. This is why I started Video Influencers, because I felt that there's nothing wrong with monetizing your passion. In fact, you should be able to monetize it in a way so that you can follow your passion and do what you love to do and not have to, if you don't want to work a 9 to 5, if you want to have a lifestyle around what it is that you've been doing this for almost a decade in the legal space. And I believe what you've learned in that experience is adding value to so many people, and it's giving you the confidence, honestly, to look at these lawsuits, these contracts, which comes to my first thing that I wish I knew about is the importance of contracts. So we just went through your 3 things you wish you knew. My first thing I wish I knew was the importance of contracts, not just in business, but on YouTube. Anything you want to add there or like maybe share with the audience when it comes to contracts? Because when I first started doing deals, I would read my own contracts because I was in real estate. So it was normal for me to do that, but I didn't have the legal training to be able to know what every word was. And perpetuity, I understood the meaning of it, but I didn't understand the weight of it when it came to contracts. And what that means basically is forever, right? And so they had ownership of this content forever. I thought, it's no big deal. And then 3 years later, it actually came back to bite me in the butt. And that was a multiple 5-figure opportunity I almost lost because of that. But any thoughts when it comes to contracts or advice to people when it comes to, the business of YouTube and working with sponsors or making sure everything legal is on the up and up and is a win-win?
I mean, how long do we have?
No, we have plenty of time. We have plenty of time.
I could talk about contracts forever, but by way of example, I've been covering the Haley Page JLM lawsuit on my channel. For those that don't follow the bridal industry, which is probably most at this point, Haley Page is a creator and wedding dress designer who was on Say Yes to the Dress. She had a contract with her employer, JLM Couture. They produce wedding dresses and evening wear. She signed an employment contract with them, giving them rights to her name. And not just her name, but her name Haley, her name Page, her name Haley Page, her name Haley Page Gutman, her name Haley Gutman, Page Gutman, like every variation of her name. And they could trademark them and have the rights to them in perpetuity, which means forever. So now that she's left JLM Couture, they are in a legal snare over her Instagram account. Over 1 million people on her Instagram. They've averaged that her Instagram garners almost $40,000 or $30,000 a post, like in that range in the lawsuit. Tons of money for one Instagram post. And so the value of that Instagram asset is now kind of the legal football The company is saying it's their asset because she was an employee and that's a marketing asset. She says it's her asset because it's personal. The contract is not super clear, but what is clear is she's branded herself as a personal brand as Miss Haley Page all over the internet. Well, they've trademarked her name. So going forward, no matter what she does, Haley Page is not going to be able to be her social media handles. So she's created a personal brand based on herself, but sold the rights to her name. She talked in a Instagram video about the fact that she didn't have a lawyer review this contract. Now, the amounts that she was paid have been redacted out of the contract, but I would imagine it was a decent sum of money that she was paid for these rights and the first year of employment. And then she's gone on to 8 or 9 more years of employment with them. It's not going to be more than about $3,000 at the very, very highest end. You can probably find a local attorney to review a contract like that for $1,500. $1,500 versus losing a million follower Instagram account that garners $30,000, $40,000 a post is absolutely nothing. So when you're starting out, it feels painful. Even $500 for a call with a lawyer or $300 for a call with a lawyer feels painful, but the amount of money it will save you is invaluable. And I talked about this on my channel with viral TikTok creator Christine Snaps. She had a video go viral on TikTok. She went from thousands of subscribers to 1 million subscribers in a week on TikTok, and then brand deals. And then one of these companies, and they do this to viral creators, came out of the woodwork and was like, hey, people are using your content. We will go and do the copyright claims on it and collect the licensing fees for it. Well, for a company to do that, and I've seen this happen to numerous viral creators, for that company to do that, you sign over the copyrights to your content to them, which she didn't understand. So she had signed over the rights to her viral video to a company who's like, we'll go out and collect the money and take a percentage. She was able to get someone to negotiate that back. But this is what comes out of the woodwork if you go viral, that people will come and try to have you sign over the rights because, hey, we're going to go get all this money that we'll find for you. Do not sign anything that you don't understand the words in and you don't understand the implications of. And that's where a lawyer is handy. Sometimes you can understand the words, but you don't understand how it plays out. Lawyers who have been doing this, I mean, I've been doing this almost 15 years, 10 of them as a district attorney. Lawyers who do this good lawyers, can look into the future. I shouldn't say all, but you can look into the future and go, this is how this plays out. Because let me tell you, I had this case and it went this way, and I had this case and it went that way. And they can see how these things play out down the road and at least give you the knowledge so you can make an empowered choice. That's where the money goes. The money goes to you making a good decision.
Yeah, I agree. There's obviously some good ones, maybe some not as good. But the one thing you do when you go through the training of being a legal representative, an attorney, is you learn how to read a lot, right? And study precedent, so past experiences and cases. And that's why looking at a contract is very basic for any attorney. And this is why most attorneys, like even if you can't afford an attorney, say you have a family attorney, right? Or somebody that you know that has a legal background, that's going to be better than you taking on the reading of a contract by yourself. And this is why now, even after doing this for so long and reading plenty of contracts, I do not do any deals without running it through my attorney. I would say my attorney, who's one of the best in the industry, is probably one of the most valuable assets to my business. And this is why I appreciate talking to you, Emily, because not only do I see it in your videos when I watch you cover different lawsuits, but also I can tell by your audience's respect for you. So long story short, do not read contracts by yourself if you do not have a legal background, and always hire an attorney and know that it's worth every single penny. And I know that it can cost a lot. And you mentioned, $3,000. There's going to be variations based on the need, but it could literally save you not just thousands, but tens of thousands. And depending on the type of influencer, maybe $1 million or more, or it maybe even save you from priceless mistakes like what Haley Page is going through. Anything else you want to add before I get into my second one, which kind of piggybacks on the last thing I wish I knew?
You can tell when you're like, Emily has more to add. Absolutely more to add. I think for influencers, the one thing that I see forgotten, because what's changed is that it used to be advertising went through a PR firm and the PR firm was able to look at the influencer and say, hey, this is kind of where we are. This is what's expected of you. The contracts aren't always easy to parse on what's expected of the influencer in something like a brand deal. So you can very easily end up putting in way more work than you anticipated just because you don't understand the expectations of the brand. So having a lawyer to be able to say, this is what they expect. Oh, and if you take this deal, you can't talk about these other types of brands for this period of time. A lot of brand deals include some sort of chill period or exclusivity for a short period. So knowing that if you take a brand deal with something like, hashtag not sponsored, Starbucks, if I take a brand deal with Starbucks and then I'm on my Instagram story drinking coffee bean or Pete's coffee, that could invalidate my brand deal. So understanding those little details is very important. And you also, time is money. And you want to be able to make sure that you know exactly what's expected of you so you can create that content for the brand, get it approved and turn it around, not have to go back and forth with, no, we thought it was this, no, we thought it was that.
Boom. You're dropping like wisdom bombs left and right. I'll tell you, this is the first time I've had an attorney on the show, which is crazy to me. I should have had someone like yourself on here earlier. But the next thing that I wish I knew before getting started with YouTube is the importance of trademarks and copyright law. And so, if you don't know, trademark is basically the way to take ownership of something, right? Like, say you've got a logo, say you've got a certain name, like Haley Page. This is your way to protect that asset. And then copyright has to do more with like works of art, music, movies, videos. Break down the importance of trademarks and copyright. I know that this is opening a huge can of worms, but what would be your quick advice? And let's just like break down what trademark law is and copyright law and how it affects YouTubers.
Those are a lot of topics. We're going to get into it. Trademarks are protecting it can protect more than just words. You can have trademarks that protect words and looks and trade dress and trade feel. But for our purposes, trademarks are the word thing. So like Disney has trademarks on every character name, on Disney itself, and on all that stuff. Coca-Cola has the words Coca-Cola trademarked, but also the font of it trademarked, but also the logo can also be copywritten. So there are overlaps between trademark and copyright, but trademarks, when we talked about Miss Haley Page, her name is trademarked by the company, which means she can't use it in certain categories. That doesn't mean there can't be a Haley Page sneaker company, because it doesn't seem the wedding dress company has trademarked it in that category. So trademarks, the reason I suggest having a lawyer is because a lawyer can help you navigate the categories. Trademarking something to use on an eyeshadow palette is different than trademarking something to sell on a t-shirt, a hat, a coffee mug, or other merchandise. If you have catchphrases, if you want to trademark your name, if it's a common name, but you don't want other people creating derivatives of it and URLs, you can do things like trademarking your name. It's worth talking to an attorney to protect your intellectual property assets. And then as you grow, you can license those assets out and allow them to be used. You can copyright things like the custom music that you might use on a channel or a podcast. Photography can be copywritten. Logos, the art of the logo, so somebody can't just take your channel art and put it on a shirt, can be copywritten. And some of those things can also be trademarked. Copyright also covers books and the entire lengths of videos and things like that. So when it comes to protecting your intellectual property, the biggest reason to do it is one, so you can use it yourself and nobody else can, but two, so you can license it down the road if you ever want to do a collab. We saw YouTuber like Blog Lottie's do a collab with Target.
Yeah.
And so to do that, she would have needed to license her intellectual property, which means it would have needed to be trademarked so that she can get paid to do that licensing agreement. And you don't want somebody to kind of sweep it out from under you, is the other thing. Finally, on that, the thing I don't see YouTubers or other creators check for is before you start making merch, You have to make sure that you're not putting other people's trademarks on your merch.
Yeah, yeah.
Designs, logos, phrases, it has to be something that's free and clear. Did that
By
raise more questions or did that make it clear?
No, it was perfect. And in fact, one of the viewers, it's Jake's Baby Cake, said, "This guy is asking awesome questions. I like him." Well, thank you,
Hi, Jake.
Jake's Baby Cakes. It's probably one of your viewers. The
Yes.
reason I'm asking these questions or mentioning some of the things I wish I knew is because it's super relevant to what you bring to the table. Obviously, even though, by the way, I didn't even tell Emily any of these things I'm dropping on her. Right? She's like, "Whoa, I need to I need to be quick on my feet here." But these are things that basically are overlooked by most creators. And so copyright can literally affect, your videos if you're using other works from other people, because obviously YouTube will take down your videos in some cases. The trademark is really important, not just a Haley page or even what you're saying about Disney. It's like, if you're creating something for yourself, you should start thinking about this if you believe it could be a big thing one day. This, I'd say, is for everybody, but especially influencers who are gonna launch something that probably has a high rate of success. You want to get that trademark, and that can cost anywhere from by the way, this is not legal advice, okay? Emily, even though she knows what she's talking about, I just want to make sure to put that disclosure out. We're going to add it to the description, right? This is not legal advice. We're just talking about our experiences and giving you our take on these different topics. But when it comes to trademarking your own thing, the reason it's important is that if you put all the work into building an audience, and they've got this relationship that turns into trust, and then you launch something, you want to make sure there isn't another company that's going to try to piggyback on that success. And actually getting the trademark is just the beginning. You have to also protect the trademark. Anything else you'd want to put out there in terms of a creator launching something, whether it's getting the trademark for this new brand or copywriting their works?
I think remembering, and this is what I say with my clients when I do, because now it's mostly business consulting, not so much legal consulting. But I remind my clients and my friends and other creators, name it and claim it. So if you can use a phrase that isn't so common for your thing, make it that phrase, name it and claim it. It becomes unique to you. It's like Kleenex. We don't call them facial tissues. It doesn't matter what brand it is, you call it Kleenex. They named it, they claimed it, they became part of the lexicon, and you can do that with your things too. And if you watch other creators, you've got to remember that, one, you can be protected, but what's protected in the US versus what's protected in Canada versus what's protected in abroad becomes a whole nother conversation. So make sure you're naming it and claiming it where you are. But if you're a creator that is not based in the US, it's always worth looking at the US trademarks too, to make sure if you have a large US audience, you're not creating something in Canada to sell as merch that infringes on a US trademark. So there are also international implications in this, which is why as you grow, it does help to have an attorney who can just help run those trademark searches and give you some guidance, because YouTube is such an international place. The other thing to understand is there will be times that you might not be able to do anything if people are infringing internationally and you don't have those international rights protected. So an attorney can help you kind of see into the future a bit on what potential problems may be and what you can do and where that kind of clear blue water is for you to build your brand.
Boom. By the way, I need to work with you more often. I love that you know your stuff. Obviously, this is why your channel's so successful. And the one lesson I guess from you, Emily, and watching what you do is experience counts a lot on YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with starting a channel with no experience, and if you just got into like some kind of hobby or passion. But this is why if you've done something for a very long time, you have a lot to add to somebody's life on YouTube, because there's a lot of beginners. Give me some hearts in the chat if you're one of the law nerds watching right now, okay? I want to see how many of you are here, because we haven't had these numbers in a very long time, and I have a
Those are the
feeling
Leonards.
this is your community here, not just supporting you but learning from you. And this is exactly why I love the hearts are coming in. This is why I love interviewing people like yourself, because not only do I get to learn a lot from you, but also I learn from different communities, and my audience is going to learn. But the question I want to ask you next comes from
Oh, I wanted
Victoria.
to bring up something from
Oh,
what
go
you
ahead.
said, and then we'll get to that.
Yeah,
But
go
you
ahead.
said something that I absolutely love. So I'm going to interrupt you and we're going to talk about it. You said experience matters. And so I'm in my 40s. Sometimes being in YouTube and being, I hate saying an influencer, but also everyone goes and buys the hairdryer I use. So I feel like somehow we're influencery. But people feel like it is a thing for 20-year-olds or for, teens when you see the D'Amelios growing. And it's not. Some of my favorite YouTubers are in their 40s and 50s and 60s. There is so much room for experience on any platform, and I absolutely love it. So yes, occasionally I get comments about my gray hair, or, hey, you look a little bit old. I am old. Law school's 3 years, college is 4 years, my career was 15 years. I'm going to be old. But knowing that there's room for that on the platform, I find that it holds people back when they feel like they are out of the typical age range on YouTube. I don't think there is a typical age range on YouTube. I think you'll find community here if you bring something to the table. So I love that you talked about experience.
Oh, I value it so much.
Oh, Jen Gerard, hello.
My next question comes from Victoria, and hopefully the team can get it up on there mutually. I just sent it to you in Slack. But Emily, the greatest advice I've gotten was from people older than me. And I've got mentors at 50 years old, 70 years old, I think also 60. So I hit all those decades. And I value that as priceless information, because they've lived a lot of life. And so the one thing I want to say before we get into the next question from Victoria is, if you're on this platform and you're seeing a lot of kids go viral and become these vloggers, you're watching TikTok and seeing literally kids and teenagers
Literally kids
becoming celebrities, and you're questioning, should you be on here? Please look at Emily and her success. I'll tell you this, she just had this massive growth in the last, 6 months, but it's just the beginning of the next 6 years, I believe, Emily. And I've seen this time and time again. And it's because of Emily's experience and love and passion for the legal aspect of, her profession. And so whatever it is, you actually will succeed more because of that experience versus a young person that has none of it. So we're going to get into the next question, which is from Victoria. And neutrally, let me know if you found it. But Victoria asked, at what point would you suggest a content creator to obtain trademarks, LLC, etc.? Is it expensive? I've got my own answer, but I want to hear your take on it first.
So, two different timings for me with the LLC versus with the trademark. I think if you are looking at making content creation a business, you're making it a business. Most states, there's no downside to going ahead and starting that LLC and running your business professionally. That said, in some states, it's more expensive than others. In California, it's going to be $800 a year, no matter what, to be an LLC. In Florida, it's like $25 a year, no matter what, to be an LLC. So this will vary by state. If you want to make money from Google AdSense, set up the proper business structures. Look, the FTC doesn't play, the IRS doesn't play. Of all of the government agencies who are going to get their cash, those two will find their money, even if it's 5 years from now. So setting up your business structure properly is key if you intend to make money or even want to make money. So do that first. Even if you're a sole proprietor, an EIN, which is a employee identification number through the IRS, it's free to get. It's the social security number for your business, and it allows you to get a business bank account, not your personal bank account, not a PayPal account, not for the love of sweet baby Jesus, a Vimeo or Venmo account. No, a business bank account where the money from Google AdSense can go in and be paid as business expenses. That structure first, if you intend to grow and make money and have this even as a side hustle for a little money, set it up like a business at the beginning. Just do it. That's trademarked by Nike, but we're not talking about shoes. Just set your business up properly. Then consider the LLC. You can talk to someone local to you. If you live in a state where it's really easy to incorporate an LLC, you can do that yourself. Consulting is preferable on it. And consulting to start an LLC, there are plenty of attorneys who work with entrepreneurs and creatives that can help with that, and it's not tremendously expensive. Then you can get guidance on when to trademark. It depends. If you're going viral, trademark now, like trademark yesterday. The guy who went viral for Honey Badger Don't Care, that video in 2006, trademarked some of the catchphrases from that video, but not all of them. So there were Tervis mugs that he licensed the rights to and made money on those brand deals and continues to this day, because I still see Honey Badger merch in 2021. This was a 2006 viral video, but he didn't license or trademark all of them. And then Hallmark released a line of cards with various phrases that he hadn't trademarked.
Wow.
And there was a 3-year legal battle over it. So I imagine this is Emily speculation, monuments to the gods of speculation. I imagine he probably tried to legal zoom some trademarks real quick and didn't sit down and talk it through with an attorney who could say, these are all the different variations of this you want for licensing. And Hallmark was like, yeah, what are you going to do? Like, we can say, yeah, Honey Badger wishes you a happy birthday. Honey Badger don't care. Things like that. But they were takes on that viral video. So if something goes viral, now, if you want to build a business, start looking for that person you can work with. And as I said, there are lots of attorneys that work in the online entrepreneur and creative space and will understand you. That might not be the guy in a building down the street from you. That might be the girl who's got a website and a contract shop on the internet who works with creative entrepreneurs. So for creatives, look for people who also work with creative entrepreneurs. Those are going to be your people.
You guys, I hope you're taking notes. I'm taking mental notes now.
It's so much information. I feel like I was just like, blah, there's so much. This is like an hour-long video on how to set up your business properly as a creative. And if we ever want to do that deep dive, Benji, we can absolutely do it for the video.
I'm looking forward to it. As long as you have time, I want to respect your day.
I got you.
If you've got a little bit more time, I actually want to do some more questions from the audience, but I'm going to give you a quick little break. Okay. So you're going to get like a 1 to 2 minute break. I just wanted to say to all the law nerds and anybody just watching, because you want to learn a little bit, some legal tips. Obviously this is not legal advice. This is just some experiences we're sharing and some insights based off of, what we know. This is Video Influencers. We are here to help you build your influence, income, impact with online videos. I'm the co-author of YouTube Secrets with the co-founder of this channel, Video Influencer. So make sure you subscribe, and we're going to take a quick little break. We're going to run a little video for you guys talking about our audiobook, but we're going to get into some really spicy stuff next. Okay. We're going to ask those questions. We're going to get those answers. So I'll see you in a second.
Probably the ones who have helped me most in terms of just technically how to create videos that are engaging and how to utilize a lot of the mechanics of YouTube is Sean and Benji from Video Influencers. They just came out with a book recently called YouTube Secrets.
I mean, they take this all the way from if you're just brand new and trying to think of ideas for your channel, all the way through it to advanced strategies. And
they both have a lot of value to add to help us influencers and YouTubers really start to build amazing and big audiences and get more views and get more subscribers.
Guys, buy the book, I promise. If you're doing YouTube Secrets, I mean it.
Did you know that right now there are tens of thousands of people generating over $100,000 per year using YouTube? That means if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, social media influencer, or you lead a nonprofit, YouTube is one of the best places to reach more people, generate more income, and build a powerful brand right now.
They talked about some of the key things that I think are essential for anyone that is trying to grow their channel, grow their business. This book is just perfect for that.
And I like to call this book the YouTube Bible because everything you need to know about YouTube is inside of this book.
And finally, there is a step-by-step playbook for success. YouTube Secrets, the brand new #1 best-selling book from online video experts Benji Travis and Sean Cannell. Drawing on 2 decades of industry experience and over 100 interviews with today's top YouTube influencers, you'll learn the proven best practices and latest viral strategies for building an influential and profitable presence on YouTube.
The number one reason why you should read this book is because you can trust Sean and Benji. They're honest, have integrity, which I think is rare in YouTube.
Considering that they have a combined 2 million subscribers, they've built 2 7-figure brands, and on top of that they have a combined 20 years of experience making video. So to that end, you really get the impression that everything that they're telling you is really steeped in proven success and not the result of wishful thinking or just theory.
The ebook, paperback, and audio version are out now at tubesecretsbook.com. YouTube Secrets, the ultimate guide to growing your following and making money as a video influencer.
Should you buy it? Yes.
All right. So I said we're going to get into some spicy stuff, but not like anything crazy. Okay. I know that the law nerds love some of the drama that you cover, but in a unique way. And this is why I have so much respect for what you do. So let's just jump right into it. What inspired you to cover these lawsuits? You know, like there's obviously a lot of drama and it's he said, she said, back and forth. But what you're doing is taking something concrete that's recorded and it's public and you're really breaking it down, right? No BS, no frills, no spin. And that's what I love about your YouTube channel. So talk about what inspired you to do this and why it is that you're covering the lawsuits that have to do with YouTubers and the YouTube community.
Absolutely. It was Kanye West, but it takes us a minute to get to why it was Kanye West. I have a podcast that recently got rebranded to The Emily Show. It's over a year old, top 20 in the news commentary category on iTunes, and I love it. When I started that podcast, I was very much in the entrepreneurial space, and when you go through your video of like who recommends video influencers, I actually have the book back here. It's red, so it's right up in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Those are kind of the people I looked up to growing my business as well, and really dialed my podcast into being breaking down topics to help entrepreneurs understand the legal side of business. And then as more and more things happened in the news where people had a disconnect between what they're seeing happening and the law behind it, I was trying to bridge that gap on the podcast of understanding the law and the result. And then I was at a business mastermind and Kanye West started leaking his contracts all over Twitter and then started leaking on his Grammy in a toilet. And I was literally running around this mastermind going, oh my God, you guys, Kanye West is literally releasing all of his contracts up on the Twitters. It's the craziest. And people are looking at me like, why do I care about this? And one of my friends grabbed me and was like, no, sit down in front of a camera and tell your people about it, because the people in this room right now are focused on building their business. They don't want to know about Kanye West contracts, but there are people that want to know what you have to say. And I was like, really? This is worth a video? He's like, yes, just react to it as it's happening. And I sat down on Instagram Live vertical and then was convinced by arm pulling and twisting to put that video up on YouTube, because I'm like, it's vertical. I don't have a thumbnail. I was treating YouTube with a lot of perfection, and put it up, and it took off in search and took off on YouTube. And then people are like, we've heard your general take on the contracts, break them down. And I was like, yes, I'll break them down. So I read them, took out like my 5 top things. And I was like, do you guys want to just see these on screen as I do it? And I was like, okay, how do I do that? Okay, StreamYard, great, let's do it. And started just pulling up the contracts, breaking them down. And then lawsuits kept happening. I was like, oh, there's so much. And my community of law nerds said, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And I was like, yes. And we talked about the Britney Spears conservatorship. And then Tati Westbrook got sued by her business partner. And I have watched her on YouTube for, God, 4 years, 5 years at least. I had watched her channel grow. And so now it's somebody I had watched as a creator. And I was like, oh, what is this? And then that lawsuit was written like the beginning of a like telenovela script. And the first line in the entire business partner lawsuit is literally, this is a lawsuit started by the defendant's greed. And I was like, what is this? And so I read it and was like, look, you guys remember, everything in here is not not necessarily proven. These are allegations. There's a litigation privilege that covers a lawsuit. So people put things in there that they hope to prove, but it's also written in a way to be most beneficial to their side. So let's look at what this side says, and then there will be another side. And then the lawsuits in Tsunami just kept coming, and they haven't stopped. And I don't think they're ever going to stop. Celebrities are going to get into lawsuits. People on YouTube are going to get into lawsuits. Another YouTuber, Tasha K, is being sued by Cardi B. We haven't even gotten to that one yet because there's so many documents. This is kind of the realm where I can help people understand the law behind the stories that they want to talk about anyway.
Well, first off, you probably need to thank your friend. Send like a,
yes.
I don't know. I would say like take him out to dinner, but maybe just send him like a Whole Foods gift card or something.
Nope. Hired him as my brand manager.
Awesome. Well, then there you go.
Hired Warren as my brand manager.
I love that story because your channel was just a channel that you kind of played around with, right? To be honest, it was just, like a side passion. Yeah, it was a hobby. And you never can expect those moments. And in that moment, you were able to react in a competent way with confidence, even though you were unsure like how to do this, how to do the screen share and all that. And the last 6 months have been crazy. And in fact, I don't know if you can see my screen here, but a lot of your last videos, the top videos, hundreds of thousands of views, right? These are the kind of views that people could only wish for after years of doing YouTube. And this speaks to, of course, I know I'm like a broken record, but your experience, your level of passion, and I think your care. So my one question is, after covering all these lawsuits and seeing the drama and looking at it objectively and even experiencing some of, like the repercussions of all of this, what are some of the lessons you learned about looking at the lawsuits and how they played out and seeing them just pop out of nowhere left and right, even from the time you saw Kanye losing his stuff, peeing on his Grammy, to even just like continuously covering, these lawsuits that are evolving in real time?
I really thought that the celebrity lawsuit space would follow kind of the pattern of what I'd experienced in civil. So I don't talk about this a ton, but before I became a district attorney, I was an attorney that worked for 2 civil judges. So I was a research attorney. I read court documents. I read the documents filed by the attorneys and helped distill them down for the judge. So that was my work. And most lawsuits don't happen at rapid pace. In the influencer and celebrity space, there are 2 lawsuits right now that there are things filed weekly. I was not anticipating the sprint plus marathon of some of these lawsuits. I am very surprised by how much on some of these they are an iceberg. And when we get that first complaint, it is really just the start of it. Most lawsuits, there's a complaint. A month or 2 later, there's a response. A month or 2 later, there's something else. And that's how I thought the pattern of most of these would go. So in my mind, my content pattern was really touch in with the Britney Spears conservatorship, give an update, look at the court documents, and then we'll get back to it in a month or 2 when another thing happens. Pull up, Anna Nicole Smith's estate suing Jeffree Star. Okay, that's been paused. They're trying to resolve it. So we get to break down the complaint, what I think. They're going to mediation. Cool. At some point, there will be a result. But the Girardi lawsuit with Real Housewife Erica Jane and her husband, famous attorney Tom Girardi, has had filings almost daily for weeks now. And then the Toddy Westbrook defamation lawsuit has had filings almost weekly since October. The pace of them has been wild to try to keep up with. I only imagine that the attorneys involved in these cases are exhausted of them. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. I'm still surprised at how quickly the pace of some of these lawsuits is moving.
For sure. But some of these people, we're talking huge businesses, lots of resources. They have plenty of money to spend on it. And obviously they're taking it very seriously. And I know we don't want to dive into some of the drama and some of the characters in there. But one thing I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I've kind of said it earlier, you're doing such a great service to this community. So thank you so much. You and I don't really go back very far. It's like earlier this week we talked for the first time. But I've been following your content for a while, and as I already mentioned, I really value attorneys in this space because to do your job well, you have to look at it objectively and not only look at the facts, but what can you prove in court? What does a judge and a jury think, right? And like that's why you're saying like you can kind of see things playing out. You use precedent. So first off, thank you so much. Thank you to Brendan Sparks for the super chat. He says, thanks Benji for always showing up and helping creators. You're a big influence on my current channel to help others start and grow on YouTube. Didn't mean to take away the attention from you.
No, I actually saw in the chat my brand manager Warren under Octonation was popping up in the chat as we were talking about him and his like, sit down, you're putting this on YouTube, because he really saw contemporaneously my excitement to talk. And I still get that way when stuff goes down. I'm like, it's happening. Yeah. There's new filings. Like we're following this lawsuit along, on the internet. But that excitement was something that he saw, and he's like, you need to make these conversations bigger. And that's really what YouTube is for, having bigger conversations. And I was thankful for that because I hadn't quite put my finger on where my channel was going to be and how it worked with my podcast. And I had had numerous business coaches tell me to stop messing with YouTube, like it wasn't the right fit for law or for what I did. And when I met Sean Cannell a number of years ago, your co-host here, and he and I became friendly. I think mostly because Sonia and I had such a good time geeking out over true crime stories from the DA's office. And Sean's like, oh, I'm not getting rid of her. And I'm like, no. And we were at multiple conferences together. And so we got to know each other. And he was like, you need to just figure out what it is, the thing you want to do on your channel, and it will be great. Just figure out the thing you want to do. And when those Kanye West contracts broke, I was like, I want to explain to people why this is a big deal. So I'm not just freaking out by myself going, this is such a big deal. Those contracts would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to draft. We're never privy to seeing the behind the scenes of the music industry like that. And I was fascinated by it. And I continue to be fascinated getting to watch lawyers work on behalf of their clients, getting to watch these things play out. And we have all the documents and we go document by document. And then I can say, this is what I think a judge is going to think of this because I worked with judges. This is how I think a jury will feel like this because I've done 50 something jury trials. So when I can bring that experience to this is how I can see this playing out, it's really fun to get to be a commentator. I bet that's what sports commentators feel like when they get to watch stuff happening on the field. They're like, no, that's me. I'm Joe Rogan watching the UFC when these things happen. I'm just like, what? No, they didn't.
I know. Sometimes I'll see your lives and it seems like literally you decide to go live like 30 seconds before, like, you won't believe what's happening, right? That's funny.
We ride, the law nerds call it riding at dawn, but there are times where stuff goes down and we're just like, we have to talk about it. Yeah. Because otherwise I'd just be here yapping my husband's ear off and I throw out a Slack to the moderators. I'm like, who's awake?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, give us a thumbs up in the chat area. Give us a thumbs up on this video, by the way, if you're getting value, if you're entertained by this conversation. I know I am, but give us a thumbs up in the chat if you yourself is an attorney. I'm curious to see how many of the law nerds viewers are actual attorneys, right, who have passed the bar. So we're going to get into Q&A. If you have a question, this is your chance to put it into the chat area. And my first question I want to lead off with is more of a personal question. You know, what are, like, I'd say the mistakes you've seen creators make just from watching from a distance, you know, both now in the last 6 months, as well as just the last 6 years when it comes to content creation. And this can be anywhere from, you know, copyright infringement, fair use, or whatever. Are there any mistakes that really glare out to you and you would like to people like maybe consider if they're starting a YouTube channel today, or if they're like, you know, like me, 10 years in?
I think, and I am hesitant always to be critical of creators because everyone does their own thing. I think understanding the boundaries of your lane. So when it comes to professional creators like lawyers, realtors, financial advisors, if doctors, because there are creators in all kinds of licensed professions, understanding the boundaries of your licensed profession and what you can and can't talk about is something that's always on their mind. Physical therapists are the same way. But when it comes to other types of creators who don't really have those necessarily external boundaries, it's hard to know what the boundaries are of fair use, defamation, slander. So understanding where the boundaries are of what we talk about on the internet and really, really understanding that the internet is forever. And we're seeing that over and over in the drama commentary community as there are these cancellations of different people, all these old videos coming up.
Yeah.
Things that you said 10 years ago don't age well in 2021. So understanding A, that the internet is forever, even if you delete it, and B, the boundaries of how you speak about things. Presenting opinion as fact is always going to be problematic. Not using things for transformative use, just re-uploading things without commentary is not strict fair use. You have to add something to it. People who believe they are reporting things but don't really understand the journalistic protections, because there's boundaries to those as well. So if you're going to report on the news, understand how you use those clips, how you attribute those clips, and how you give commentary. And there's channels that do it well, and there's channels that don't do it well. And so I think that doesn't come from malice most of the time. I think that comes from lack of understanding of what's commentary, what's reporting, what's opinion, and what is opinion stated as fact, which is where you start getting into problems.
Absolutely. And by the way, again, I just want to remind everybody, just because you're hearing these things from Emily, this is not legal advice. You're not creating a legal relationship with Emily or myself here, which is pretty obvious, but we just got to say it because it actually piggybacks on my next viewer question, which comes from Karasu the Dreamer. And they say, could you please explain fair use when it comes to using movie and TV clips? I review cartoons and I want to use clips from the show I'm reviewing. And I know you just explained it, right? Like to a certain degree. Anything else you'd want to add for Karasu, just in case there's something specific when it comes to this? Because this is actually a question I'm curious about, because you see so many channels that make a whole living off of reviewing movies, TV clips, and in this case, cartoons.
So there's two components to fair use on YouTube from my perspective. One is the actual fair use law, and one is YouTube's own copyright system. So even if you use something that might fall within fair use, it doesn't mean that YouTube isn't going to go ahead and copyright sweep it. So you have to, for YouTube, shorter clips I've seen tend to work better. Fair use disclaimers in the footer or in the body of your video, and making sure that it is transformative use, that you are commenting on it, that you are going kind of bit by bit and talking through it. Because if you just play something up there and we're like, yeah, I thought that was great, YouTube's going to pull it down, and B, it's not going to fall under fair use. So making sure that you really are transforming that work by your commentary. And that's where I find channels like Def Noodles do this really well. He does use a lot of different clips and has the short clips and the commentary, and other channels do that too. When you watch someone like, oh gosh, my mind is blanking on who else does it well, but there are other channels that do this really well with like reacting to a movie, and you'll get a 30 or 45-second clip and then comment on it. That keeps it easy. And remember, not only is fair use under the law a defense, meaning somebody can say you're not using this right, and then you can defend yourself with it, but you have to think of the offensive with YouTube so you don't get those copyright strikes from their automatic system. And that is a separate system to keep in mind.
Boom, dropping some major wisdom. You guys should definitely, I mean, all this stuff is what I had to learn through making mistakes and hiring my own attorney. Again, this is not legal advice, but this is at least getting you in the right direction. Now, a question that came from a viewer that I want to ask you next is, at what point and how do you find a attorney, right? By the way, this is not the question. I think we already answered Victoria's question, but at what point and how would you find an attorney for, contracts, for trademarks, for LLC, et cetera, et cetera?
If you know that you want to make it a business, it's worth starting to find an attorney that can work with you. And I said earlier, there are lots of attorneys that put themselves in the creative entrepreneur space and the creatives space. Those are going to be the attorneys you want to look for. You can look for people in your local area. And in the US, a lot of attorneys will consult depending on where you live when it comes to creative, copyright, and trademark, because those things are federally applicable, not just state by state. And so find somebody who you can do a consultation with. Ask them about a consultation. You can start with a Google search, a Yelp search by your area, looking at YouTube channels to see who's giving advice that you resonate with, and then asking for a consultation. You don't have to jump all the way into a retainer agreement with people. Most attorneys will do a 10 to 15 minute, hey, what do you need? Hey, this is how I work, kind of get to know you phone call. Find someone that you feel heard with. Find someone that uses the language you do. If you want a really formal attorney, then you will look for that on their website. You're going to find lots of blues, grays, reds. There's going to be books. There's going to be like scales of justice and big buildings. If you are looking for somebody who is going to like break it down and be more handholdy, you're going to look for somebody who is more in the creative space, whose website is not as aggressive. And, TikTok has lawyers. There's great lawyers on Instagram who give regular advice in that creative entrepreneur space. Find someone and look at the content they put out that you follow along with. The reason I say someone who's also familiar with content is that those attorneys tend to also work with beginning creatives. And then if you are moving up, or if you're in the realm where you're like, I am clearly not a beginner, but I still need to get this done. And y'all, I have looked at big creators, LLCs, and they still have their home address on them because nobody taught them any better. It's horrifying. But if you're growing, reach out to the other creators you know first and ask them who they work with. Because what you'll find is attorneys who work with YouTubers tend to have other YouTubers as clients as well. And we see that in the Toddy Westbrook case because her attorney low-key flexes that he reps like Ryan's Toy Review and others in his court documents, which we appreciate because it's like, oh, weird flex, but okay. And so asking other creators that are in your space who they use is a great resource too. So two options.
Attorneys flexing. I didn't know attorneys flex. I didn't know they care about what other people think. Well, no,
it was in a footnote. It was in a footnote of a filing. I'm familiar with YouTube because I also rep the most popular and most profitable YouTuber circa like 2009 or whatever. And so I Googled it while we were live. I was like, well, who was the most Ryan's Toy Review. And then I did a case search because there's a large case going on with YouTube right now. And so I did that case search back and found this attorney actually representing Ryan's Toy Review in the Hubbard case. I was like, there we go. Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, it's understandable because Ryan's Toy Review is a huge influence in this space and in the world in general. He was like, I believe, flying around in at Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade, which is kind of crazy. But
I mean, when you influence the kids, you influence the parents, right? There's no getting away from it. Your kids like Ryan's Toy Review. You're buying Ryan's stuff at Target. There's nothing you can do about it. You've been influenced. No one's more influential than a very adorable, like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old.
Yeah, I've actually met his father at a YouTube event. In fact, where YouTube gave me this, I met him.
Yeah,
a very nice man. I'm sure a very great family, really connected. It's interesting, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. But one of the things that I'm sure you're finding out is, as yourself probably already know, YouTubers are human, right? And obviously we have different niches, different genres. They're putting on a certain persona for our content, but at the end of the day, we're human. This is why what you're doing for the community and covering these lawsuits objectively, and not necessarily, again, you're not representing anybody, but to a certain degree, you're actually giving them a little bit of protection to bring that objective conversation, to the space, because sometimes you kind of like, it affects everybody, the trolling, the hate, the negativity, and you can actually have a hard shell and move forward. But I know there's a lot of creators, part of their burnout is because they're tired of all this. And so this is why, it's easy to just assume these people like deserve this, right? Or, you know, they're asking for it. But honestly, I've always thought when I saw your videos that you're doing more good for this space than most people realize. And so thank you. But I want to piggyback off of what you said, Emily, about finding an attorney. I think getting a referral from other YouTubers, other influencers in your specific space, really smart. That's partly how I connect with mine. But also, if you're asking an attorney in your area and they can't represent you, oftentimes they can refer you to the right people because they might know. And I know you want to always refer your buddies, but still just be very clear about what it is. And that's actually how I found my attorney. I called a few different places. A couple people said the same name. I went there and I met them. And then that's how I found my first attorney that I worked with, which was in entertainment law, right? Anything else you'd want to correct me on or, you know, piggyback on what I just said?
No, that's absolutely it. The thing about finding a professional is you've got to remember that they, at the end of the day, work for you, and you have to be comfortable with them, and you have to be comfortable that you're heard by them. And that's what I see. People get nervous with attorneys. If your attorney makes you feel like you can't raise concerns to them, that's not the right fit for you. There are plenty of attorneys. Find somebody who you feel heard by, because having a trusting relationship with an attorney is worth everything. And that might just be your business attorney that guides you through things. If you get into hiccups later, that person will kind of be the quarterback of your team and help you find the other pieces that you need if they can't do it.
Sweet. Okay, so, you know, I only have two more questions. One's a viewer question, and one is just a standard question I ask everybody else. If you're getting value out of this, which I know I am, hit that like button. Go subscribe to Emily's channel, because I heard through the chat you're going to make your hair purple once you hit 100,000 subscribers. And let's go to a shot of her. See over her left shoulder, there's that little counter by the and a sign right there. Let's get that to 0.2 at least, okay? You guys come, let's get that closer to 100,000. But my next question actually comes from a viewer here in the video influencers community, Fernanda. And she asked, and she's Fernanda approximately right, at what point should one consider trademarking their brand name, channel name? Is there a certain level where you would recommend doing that? I think that's a great question, because trademarking can cost money, right? So what would be your quick take on that when it comes to somebody deciding when they want to invest in that versus investing in better equipment or, you know, other resources?
Oh, I hate to give a lawyer answer, Fernanda, but it really does depend. And a good lawyer will ask you about what your goals are with your channel, what your goals are with your name, and then we'll do a trademark search to see what the competition in your space for your thing is and what you want to use it for. So if it's on your mind, it's the right time to start having a conversation with an attorney and finding someone to do a consultation with. Good attorneys will tell you when to wait and when to go, but they will also take your goals and your growth into consideration. So it's worth having the consultation. That doesn't mean you have to trademark it right away. That means somebody is giving you a roadmap for when, based on where you're at and where you're going. So it's really going to depend, because trademarking a high frequently used term for merch, you're going to want to do it sooner. But using something that's unique or different or really specifically creative, you might be able to wait a little bit longer. So if it's on your heart and on your mind, a consultation will lift the weight off of you. So you know, oh, because I want to do this with it, I need to trademark it now. Or because I want to do this with it, this point of growth is where it makes sense. So I'm sorry that it depends, but it is so specific to what it is, how you want to use it, how competitive the space is, and how your growth is going. It just depends.
Yeah, I want to add my 2 cents to this too. You know, when I went to go trademark video influencers, which good thing I do actually have it, one of the things my attorney told me is what they look at is the usage of it. And when you Google it, literally he like Googled it, and it's like, if you show up, that's going to be strong for your case. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be bulletproof, because there's so many different variables that would affect it. I'm not even going to try to act like I know about trademark law, but I can tell you this. putting out content with the brand you want to build it's so critical. In fact, this is why YouTubers kind of have a leg up compared to most other businesses or entrepreneurs, because that content is maybe the first easy hanging fruit for people to search online. What are your thoughts when I say that? Because that was kind of interesting to me, because my attorney's like, hey, Benji, let me just do a thing. Oh, look, you show up for a video influencer there. Yep. I think that we can do this, right? Is that true? And have you heard that as well?
I mean, is it true? Depends, because part of trademarking is use in commerce. So you have to show that you're using it. So coming up in search for it shows that you're using it in commerce in different ways. One of the first things I recommend people do is take up the real estate in a space. So if you are thinking of an idea before you use it in commerce, buy the URL, buy the .com, buy it now. If you are thinking of maybe starting a spin-off brand or not a personal brand, see if you can get those social handles. I use Name Checker, and I can put the link in the chat for you guys later, but I use Name Checker to see where it's being used across social media, because yes, you can try to trademark something and go after getting those handles later, but it's easier to name it and claim it in a space where nobody's quite using it yet or using it that way. Also, the nice thing about having an attorney to talk this out with is making sure you don't go buy the URL and somebody else already has the trademark and just didn't buy the URL yet because they don't listen to Emily and her name it and claim it philosophy. Because there are people who will trademark it but not get the URLs for it. And you're like, what are you doing? What do you mean? And this happened with a client who was starting a podcast. Another larger influencer was spelling one of the words in the podcast in the UK version. She had spelled it in the American version. And so they were going to have these two podcasts named exactly the same thing with this slight spelling difference of one word, because he Googled it under his spelling and she Googled it under her spelling. And her community went nuts when he posted new podcast coming, and her community lost it and was like, this is her space. This is what she does. Because that influencer is a gracious human, he reached out and said, I didn't realize I'm redoing the branding. It's not a problem. But he was also international and probably could have put his foot down and said, no, I'm not going to do it. Her community ended up protecting her intellectual property because she named it and claimed it and branded around that. So when they saw something else in the space, they were like, no. And sometimes that social awareness can be very, very protective of your brand. So if something is yours and you have a strong community, they will let you know if somebody's using your shit.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that answer. And man, I'm just learning so much. Thank you, Emily. I literally have just one more question, because this broadcast has already gone way longer than I expected.
Oh, this is long for you. The law nerds are like, this is what we do.
For good reason, though. I mean, from your law nerds to my audience and myself, selfishly, the advice that you're giving based off of your experiences, the wisdom bombs you're dropping are literally what everybody needs to hear when they're first starting out. And you know what? To be frank, even creators who are doing this and are seasoned YouTubers probably haven't heard some of the things you're talking about. So my last,
I mean, your video influencers are here to learn, right? They're here to grow.
Thank you.
But the thing I love about the kind of the community you and Sean have created is it's about that bringing that positive side to being a video influencer, not bringing the, like, let's just make some quick money. It's about what impact and influence in change and positive change you're making. And that's what I love about this space. And I see your community blowing up in the chat too, just, you know, how much love and how protective they are. And that's, when we go back to intellectual property, your community being protective is a huge benefit when it comes to protecting that.
Yeah, and I've experienced it not just on here with video influencers and the influencer community, but also with my vlog community and the people that have been following my wife and I for literally a decade now.
Yeah.
And we of course, it's very one-sided because we don't get to, you know, connect with them as much. We try to do live streams once in a while or do events, and we've done meet and greets in the past. But they're like family because they've grown up with us. They've seen us date, get married, have kids, and move into our home. And so we really value that attention, but more so the care that they have for me and Judy. So I echo that in the community. And a huge thumbs up for the law nerds here. Last question of the day is, we've talked about a lot of legal things. We talked about things you wish you knew. If you were going to give advice to somebody that's starting a YouTube channel today, maybe it's you before you started, what would you want to tell them? Like, is there a piece of inspiration, a story, or is there like a tactic that you feel like is really important for someone to learn? What would you tell somebody just starting a YouTube channel today, right now?
I would absolutely share that you need to know who you are, and the negative sides of creating will not impact you nearly as much as some creators if you know who you are at your core, because what you will attract to you is a community of like-minded and encouraging people. So even if you do get some of the negative sides, you will be insulated and protected by the people that get you and understand you because you know who you are. And just stay true to that. If you grow and change, share it with your audience. Figure out what you want to do, yes, but figure out who you are first. And from there, create what you want to bring into the world and have fun with it.
There you go. You heard it from the Emily Baker. You are an amazing commentator when it comes to all things legal, obviously covering the lawsuits, covering some of the drama, but from a legal aspect. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really hope that we can be part of your journey getting to 100,000 subscribers.
Please.
I just
I'm
want you to know,
happy to have
Sean speaks so highly of you. I've already knew the value brought to this community, and obviously from how popular you are and how many people care about what you say, you're already on the right track. So if there's anything, any value from me telling you this, this is just the beginning. And I hope to speak to Warren. I feel like him and I could vibe about some of the...
You totally could.
Yeah, so make sure you connect me. Hey, you guys, go check out Emily's channel. We've got all the links below. As always, here on Video Influencers, we're helping build your influence, income, and impact with online video. I'll talk to you later.